Well, President Trump is ordering the declassification of a batch of documents from the early days of the FBI's Russia investigation. The documents include specific pages of a secret surveillance warrant against former Trump advisor Carter Page. President Trump also ordered the release without redaction of all text messages sent by former FBI Director James Comey and several of his colleagues related to the Russia probe. Well, President Trump explained his reasoning for the move today at the White House.
What I want total transparency. This is a witch hunt. Republicans are seeing it. The Democrats know it's a witch hunt too, but they don't want to admit it because that's not good politics for them. But it's a terrible witch hunt, and it's hurt our country. And the things that have been found over the last couple of weeks about text messages back and forth are a disgrace to our nation. And I want transparency, and so does everybody else. As you know, congressional committees came to me and they wanted this. And I did it based on their request. But I think it's a good thing because we should open it up for people to see.
And joining me now from the White House to explain what this all means, CBS News correspondent in Washington, Paula Reid. So, Paula, in addition to ordering the release of Comey's text messages, we know that President Trump also ordered the release of messages belonging to several others. Remind us again who these people are. How relevant is this to the story?
Well, they're all connected in some way to the Russia investigation. First of all, there's Andrew McCabe. He is the former #2 at the FBI, and for a time he was the acting FBI director after the president fired then FBI Director James Comey. Now, Andrew McCabe was eventually fired by the FBI for allegedly sharing inappropriately information with a reporter. But conversations between Andrew McCabe and the president are currently being investigated by special counsel Robert Mueller as possible obstruction of justice and questions about whether or not the president was putting any pressure on McCabe to also help tamp down the Russia probe. Now, two of the other individuals are Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. Both of these Justice Department investigators worked on not only Hillary Clinton's email investigation, but also the Russia probe. They were also involved in an extramarital affair, and that is significant because as part of that, they exchanged an unusually high number of text messages, many of which have already been made public and reveal anti-Trump bias. They say very disparaging things about the president and his supporters. Now, I've read thousands of these text messages. They also say disparaging things about other people who work at the Justice Department, about pretty much everyone. But the president has really honed in on these two and these text messages to suggest possible political bias. And an independent Office of Inspector General, that independent watchdog within the Justice Department, also reviewed these and agreed that these text messages exchanged between Strzok and Page raise questions about their own political bias. Now, lastly, Bruce Orr is the other official whose text messages the president wants to be released, and he is under scrutiny. Still at the Justice Department, but he's under scrutiny for sort of going outside his chain of command to share certain information about the president that was being gathered for that infamous dossier, to share that information with the FBI. But so far, it seems that what he shared with the FBI really wasn't at the core of the Russia probe. It wasn't really an important part of what spurred this. But he has also been a target of the president. But unlike the other three, he still has his job at the Justice Department.
So when it comes down to it, Paul, what do you think it is that the president is trying to show by ordering the release of these documents?
Well, it's clear he is trying to show that the Russia investigation was politically motivated and that it was improper at the outset. He's hoping by releasing the FISA application against Carter Page, or at least additional pages of it, in addition to these text messages, that this will all reveal political bias against the president. However, folks who have seen some of these documents suggest the president may want to be careful what he wishes for. So far, especially the portions of the FISA application to surveil Carter Page, what has been released with great fanfare by the president and his allies, promising to be a bombshell. Really, Rena, most experts looked at it and said this is a pretty well-supported application, pretty well-supported request for surveillance that was approved 3 times by Republican judges. But the president and his allies continue to suggest that what we haven't seen, what has been redacted, will reveal the true sort of misdeeds. But it remains to be seen. So far, everything that's been released, except for the text messages, we're just talking about the FISA application, hasn't really supported the president's claim that the surveillance of Carter Page was improper.
It's a good reminder. I'd forgotten that it was approved, the FISA applications, by Republican judges. I do want to ask you, though, the ranking Democratic member of the House Intelligence Committee, Congressman Adam Schiff, called this, and I'm quoting here, clear abuse of power, saying that releasing these documents actually jeopardizes national security. Exactly how specifically do you think this could harm the country?
Well, I'm going to kick that question to the FBI director, who has said that he believes that this is a red line. He does not believe that this kind of thing should be revealed because it shows to all of our adversaries our sources and our methods. This is an unprecedented move by the president to reveal this kind of information. FISA applications supposed to be extremely secretive to protect the sources that law enforcement use, to protect what they're relying on. So many law enforcement officials have said that the president is acting in his own self-interest and undermining national security efforts by exposing our sources and methods. Of course, on the flip side, the president and his allies, they claim that this was an abuse of power, that this was an abuse by law enforcement and needs to be exposed.
Paul, you remember way back, a while back, when the president tweeted out about JFK's assassination. He decided to release all these documents. Well, we got them ultimately. They were really heavily redacted. What's preventing a situation like this with these documents that will ultimately get them and they too will be heavily redacted?
One thing we definitely don't know is how we're going to get these documents, who's going to release them, and what they're going to look like. DNI, the Justice Department yesterday, they said, look, we're working through this. This is an unprecedented request. It's an enormous amount of information. We have to work through it and figure out how we can appropriately and carefully declassify this information. So I just don't think it's clear what we're going to see once these are released. But again, it's important to note that specifically with the FISA application, the president hasn't tried to declassify the entire thing. It's just additional portions of it. So I do expect at least some of the FISA application will be redacted. For the text messages, though, it appears that he wants everything released. But we are definitely in uncharted, unprecedented territory here.
I keep hearing that more and more, Paula, every day as we talk about these stories. Before you go, though, I do want to ask you, Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh visited the White House yesterday, but didn't meet with the president. Why is that?
That's right, and he was back today. The president was asked about this just a short time ago, and the president said that he didn't want to talk to Kavanaugh. He felt that Judge Kavanaugh could handle himself just fine, but he wants Judge Kavanaugh to know that he has the president's full support. It seems over the past 2 days, Rena, the president has fully embraced the process and transparency, and that's been the word coming out of the White House. Kellyanne Conway as well, saying, look, this woman shouldn't be insulted or ignored. She should be heard. So here it seems the president is on message with the rest of his White House staff that they are going to honor and respect the process. Over in the Senate, in fact, yesterday he said, look, I trust the Senate, I trust the process. So we'll see if that continues. But so far, he just doesn't see any need to sort of get involved and talk to Kavanaugh. He wants to see how he handles it on his own.
All right, Paula Reid, grateful you could join us, Paula.